Another tax-friendly country is gone. The United Kingdom, one you might not consider to be tax-friendly, actually had a special tax regime for over 200 years, and now it's going away. We have worked with a lot of UK citizens who want to relocate because they think the country's going in the wrong direction, they think there are better opportunities elsewhere, and oftentimes because they want to reduce their taxes. To them, the UK is not a tax-friendly country. But to a group of non-doms who benefit from a non-domiciled tax arrangement that was in place since 1799 and set up to safeguard colonial investments, the UK was a relatively tax-friendly country. We're going to talk in somewhat simple terms about what happened today. What I've told you for years is that in Europe, tax incentives are much more nuanced. There are caveats. There are exceptions. It's hard to just say, you pay zero or you pay this. There are programs like Italy and Greece where they have lump sum programs. Hey, pay 100,000 euros a year to Italy. Done and dusted. The UK was not that simple. But non-dom programs, which survive in Ireland, Malta, Cyprus, they do allow people, generally who aren't from there, to go and pay an amount of tax that they're in control over. Now, for the select group of people in the UK, that opportunity is going away. This is a continuation of what I would say is anti-wealth, anti-business sentiment from the UK. Nigel Farage is going to talk at Nomad Capitalist Live. Whatever you think of Nigel Farage, this year he's going to talk about not only how he was unbanked, and that's why I wanted him to come and tell the story of having his bank cancel him in his own country, but talk about why is the UK not doing more to invite people to go there. I think that we have some clients who would like to go to the UK if there was a way for them to immigrate there, but they can't make investments. They can't start a business in the UK and get immigration permission. Unless you're an Irish citizen, you can move to the UK, and now why would you want to without a special tax regime? But the UK has really kept these people out, and now they're saying, hey, 225 years of tax incentives, we're going to get rid of that. Like Portugal, where they have the tax incentive, they have phased that out. They've raised the price on their golden visa. I think that a lot of these countries forget that the reason Portugal, for example, had a golden visa was people weren't buying their real estate. They want people to come in and buy their real estate. Then people eventually complain it worked too well. And sure, not everything lasts forever, but to me, this was an opportunity to have people coming into the UK who had money, who were injecting cash into the economy, whose wealth was coming from somewhere else, and the politicians said, yeah, you know what? We don't want you. Here's what happened. The UK's non-dom regime, the existing regime, will be abolished, and a new modern, simpler, and fairer residency-based system will be introduced. We'll get to the details in a moment. What people don't often understand is a residential tax system is one where if you live in a country and you become a tax resident, that could be defined often as you spend more than 6 months. The UK has different tiers of how many days based on how many ties. But the average person who lives in one place, you live there, you pay tax on your worldwide income. That's different than what the United States has, citizenship-based taxation, because you can exit the UK's tax system. You can stop to be a resident. In the US, you have to stop being a citizen to exit their citizenship-based taxation. There's ways to reduce your taxes as an American living overseas, but you're always technically a subject of the US tax system, whereas the UK you can leave. But for as long as you live there under a residential system, which is what pretty much every Western European and most Western countries have, you live there, you pay tax. So if you're a UK tax resident and you don't have a non-dom program, and you have some of the Singapore dividend-paying stocks that we've talked about, there is no dividend tax in Singapore. And yet, as a non-dom, you could potentially isolate those investments, not pay tax in the UK because it's not UK income if it's not remitted to the UK. Now, if you're under a residential system, everything in the world, for as long as you reside there, will be taxed. And so there's less incentive to go and invest in places that have more favorable tax regimes, like buying stocks in Singapore for zero dividend tax and zero capital gains tax, because the residential tax system you live in will pick up the slack. They say this is aimed at keeping the UK competitive with other jurisdictions. I don't know how being less competitive means being competitive, but okay. And indeed, the proposals draw heavily on the regimes in places like Italy and New Zealand. Now, all hope is not lost. I'm going to lay out what they're doing, and I'm going to do it rather simply. because their system is not as straightforward as one like Italy. I think the most straightforward non-dom regimes would be Malta and Cyprus. I think Ireland has always kind of borrowed a little bit from the UK. There's a bit more nuance to it. Italy's lump sum tax system is pretty simple. It's not a non-dom regime. That's a lump sum system. I think both regimes are fair enough if you want to live in high-tax Western countries. You want to work towards their citizenship, which is the benefit of living in most European countries. If you can eventually be naturalized as a citizen with a very good Tier A passport, that's worth something. Hey, if you make millions of dollars a year, paying Italy 100,000 euros could end up with a single-digit tax rate, and you eventually get a passport. The UK system will not be that simple. Here's what's happening. From April 6th, 2025, that's their tax year, the current remittance-based taxation system will be abolished for UK resident non-doms. So, under this kind of system, you are a tax resident, but you are a non-dom in terms of how you're classified. So, domicile, there's a number of things that you could get from that. It could be, where do you intend to die? One of the big things is, if you buy a grave there, all bets are off. If your father, where's he from? There's a number of things that make you domiciled. So we simplify it to say, if you don't really have any connection with the UK, and ostensibly you might not be there forever, that's kind of a really simplistic way of saying that you could be a non-dom. It's more complicated than that. But that system is going to go away. And so what you were able to do basically was, the money that you brought into the country, they would tax as normal. But again, let's say you make $5 million, but you live in somewhere in the UK on $500,000. Well, now that 10% of your income is taxed at normal rates. Not a bad system for then, because how many people in the UK make $5 million, or £5 million, or $5 million, whatever. But they're still getting you to spend more money than a lot of people locally would spend, and therefore they're taxing you more. But to you, it could be a pretty low rate. That's why I think this system is fair. And you're not running your affairs there. Your business isn't there. You're coming in already having wealth. They did not create your wealth. They're just benefiting from it. But not fair enough, right? Because the problem with these legacy brand countries, I think if you're not from somewhere, if you want to argue you're from the country, and this is what the system was about, you're from the country, we created you. Did they really create you? Not really, but okay. There's more of an argument for that. If I come at 39 years old and I already have the full wealth infrastructure in place, I just want to live in your country and I want to give you 100,000, 200,000, whatever pounds per year, I'm paying more than most people, and I'm not a citizen, so I'm not taking your social services. I'm contributing other wealth to the economy. What's so bad about that? If taxes are the price we pay for civilization, let someone pay 100,000 pounds or 200,000 pounds to live, and let the wealth they generated somewhere else go untaxed. But no, fairness for these legacy brand countries is getting their clutches in you so that they can tell the people who are paying 5,000 and 10,000 pounds that they're fighting for them and they can stay in power. This system will be replaced with a 4-year foreign income and gains, or FIG, regime for individuals who become UK resident after a period of 10 tax years of UK non-residence. And what people who are in this business are saying is, because of this, a lot of their people living in UK are already looking to pack their bags. Because what they're saying is, if you're to move to the UK in the near future, and again, how do you get in? They don't really have that many genuinely workable programs that just someone, even a business like Nomad Capitalist, maybe part of our business could move to the UK and we'd pay corporate tax on that part of the business. Maybe we want a European office, any number of things. They'll take the money if I set up the company. They won't let me move there. And so how are you going to move it? I don't know. Anyway, if you were to move there, what they're saying is you will get this 4-year foreign income and gains regime so long as you have not lived there for the previous 10 years. Individuals who meet the conditions will not pay tax on any FIG arising the first 4 years after becoming UK tax resident and will be able to remit these funds into the UK free from any additional charges. In addition, they will not pay tax on distributions from non-resident trusts. So your Cook Islands Trust, your Bahamas Trust, something that we're increasingly talking to clients about. We have some great asset protection experts. That should be part of the holistic plan you make with Nomad Capitalists. They will, as currently, pay tax on UK income and gains. Again, if you have gains from a certain place, income sourced from a country, that's always going to be taxable there. So if you go to the UK and you hire yourself to do a job in a company, or you get a job, whatever, that's taxable. Your UK rental income, always taxable. what this is about is you already have your money overseas and you don't have to bring it in. So what they're saying basically is you get 4 years, they'll leave you alone for a while so long as you haven't been living there before, and they're going to open up perhaps who can participate in this. Individuals who have been tax resident for less than 4 years on April 5th of 2025 and who were non-resident for 10 years before that can use the new regime while they are UK for the remainder of the 4-year period. So basically, as of when this transition happens in April of 2025, you can go back 4 years, but you can only go back so far because the 10-year look-back exists. There will be a 1-year reduction in the amount of foreign income that will be subject to tax for individuals who move from the remittance basis. Basically, they're going to lower it for the 2025-2026 tax year because in the UK, it's the years kind of straddles the 2 years. In a bid to encourage non-doms to bring wealth overseas or earned overseas to the UK for both spending and investment, a new 12% rate of tax will be introduced for remittances of FIG made in tax years 25 and 26. So again, that's one tax year, and 26, 27 in certain circumstances. So this is kind of what the Trump tax cuts did for businesses, although that forced you to bring it back. They're saying, hey, if you have money overseas, bring it in the next couple of years, pay a 12% rate. If you haven't been living here before, come and get a special regime for the next 4 years, and then all bets are off. Now, one of the big things is inheritance tax in the UK is based on residence, and that will now be opening up. So, we've talked historically a lot about income tax. As we've worked with more clients who are selling their businesses or have very valuable businesses, that the valuation comes into play. We've talked more about capital gains. Obviously, if you have Bitcoin, stuff like that, that's a capital gains issue as well. But the next level is inheritance tax, and that could be less advantageous. So, if you want to live in Europe, and many people do, and there's benefits for that. Having a European Tier A passport is not a bad thing. The UK, you got to spend most of your year there to qualify, but you can get a passport in 6-7 years, get that passport in your hands. But it's more complicated. The UK is probably not going to be as attractive anymore. Ireland, Malta, Cyprus, you need comprehensive immigration and tax planning. If you want to move to other tax-friendly countries, we've helped our clients move to 31 different tax-friendly countries. And sometimes people come and say, I'm really sold on this one. And we work through the process of, are you really sold, or is there some alternative you're open to? Because there's so many places to go that will pick up the slack. And I'll talk to you about those in a moment. But what we help people do is go through all your options. There's plenty of good professionals in the UK. You probably need to hire 2 or 3 of them to figure out all the immigration and tax processes because most of them are not holistic. But they're only going to sell you the UK. They're not going to tell you to go to Ireland. They're not going to tell you to go to Malta. They're not going to tell you to go to Panama or Malaysia or Dubai. That's what Nomad Capitalist does. It's one-stop shopping. We have hundreds of experts that we've worked with. I am guinea pig number 1. We've been doing this now for, close to 2,000 clients. And if you'd like to benefit from that, everyone under one roof, holistic planning to where someone's quarterbacking things for you, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply and learn more about how we help people who make $500,000 or more or have a liquid net worth of $1 million or more. And I think from my own perspective, especially doing stuff in Europe, you got to have a holistic plan because sometimes you go to one professional and they make a great plan for their part. But then the other professional makes a great plan for their part, and then you bring them together and they collapse because each one did their own part and they don't work together. And that's what we try and help people avoid. All legally and above board, nomadcapitalist.com. Now, where can you go instead if you like Europe? Greece is a 15-year deal. Make an investment, get a property, pay $100,000 in tax a year. What's cool about a program like Greece's is even if you're Greek, but you've been gone, you can come back and you can do that. Ireland has a non-dom program. I think Ireland's a little bit more straightforward, certainly in terms of immigration, but in terms of the taxes than the UK is. That could be an option. If you are a UK citizen, now you may not have benefited from this program. There are some that do. If you're a UK citizen, you can move to Ireland as of right through the Common Travel Area. And so that's the one place left in Europe you can go to. Obviously, you can also go to the Channel Islands or Sark or which in the Channel Islands, any of that. So Greece and Ireland. Italy has a program, again, 15-year, 100,000 euro flat tax. Ireland and Italy, I think, could lead to citizenship. Malta, non-dom program, more straightforward, nominal charges. Switzerland, lump sum program. Andorra, Monaco, Georgia, even Serbia in some cases, very low rates of tax. From 1% to 10%. easier in terms of things like foreign corporations, some of the elements of a non-dom, like not bringing in foreign corporations into the picture. There are options in Europe, and there are options outside of Europe. If you like the weather in the UK, you can find Ireland could work. If you want sunnier weather, there's places to go. There's always places to go. They've been talking about doing this in the UK for some time. I think that places like Malta and Cyprus thrive on having these programs. They want them. Smaller countries thrive on doing this kind of thing. And countries that realize they need to bring some cash into the joint, like Italy, Greece. Who would have thought those would be tax-friendly countries? And again, they're not, but they've rolled out a number of incentives. If you don't make enough to pay 100,000 euros lump sum in Italy, they have recently weakened the tax incentives for freelancers, but they're still there. And you can still reduce taxes dramatically over their rate because they realize they need people to come. They need people. And apparently the UK is still in legacy country mode, and they don't think they need people. They're going to see some of the wealthiest people already planning, because guess what? We hear it. Our vendors and people in our network hear it. There are big rumblings from wealthy people. Why would I stay and pay top taxes? Because here's my argument. I do pay some personal income tax. Our company, has companies around the world, and we're pretty tax neutral, but we do pay in some places. I've never been against paying something, but I'm sorry. If you're the part where you make $10 million a year, for example, is there any place that's worth $4 or $5 million? Maybe to somebody there is. For me, when there's so many places in the world that I actually enjoy, not just, I can suffer there. There are places out there you would enjoy. Why would you pay $4 million when there's something similar? People say, there's nothing like California. Yeah, there is. Coast of Portugal, other places in the Mediterranean, parts of Chile. There's plenty of places like California. There's plenty of places like anywhere you can go to. The culture, the weather, whatever it is you're looking for. The UK, okay, fine. They claim they're doing something kind of like Italy, where you're going to get this kind of couple-year incentive. It's not as long. It's not as simple. They're not totally throwing at the system. And if you're living there, all right, 12%. Hey, fine. 12%, that's the price of admission. You can apply for citizenship, but I think the good thing about it, like the UK, is they play it down the line in terms of citizenship. It's not Greece. It's not Montenegro. It's not Bulgaria, where they wishy-wash. And even Malta kind of wishy-washy on granting citizenship by naturalization. I think the UK plays it down the line. Did you tick the boxes? You're in. And so that's good. And there's maybe some price to pay for having UK citizenship. I don't think the UK citizenship is as bad of one to have in terms of future financial restrictions than, let's say, Canada or Australia. I would put the UK a rung above those. But it is a move in the wrong direction. I don't see issues in the other similar countries. But this is what happens when countries think that you don't have other options.